Hey game designers, in this video we're going to teach you guys how to implement the new input system, and then I think what we're going to do is go ahead and create a second video on how to actually create the virtual keypad. Okay, so again we're going to start first with the input system. So this is kind of like the final picture that I'm looking for. You can see here that we have created a virtual UI canvas with all the buttons, and then we have an input controller that allows us to create a new system of buttons that the computer will register. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I believe what we need to do first is to download all the buttons and to download the new input controller script. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on all of these, open a new tab, open a new tab, open a new tab, open a new tab. And actually, I'm not going to even download them right now because the buttons aren't important. We'll worry about that later. But we do need to go ahead and go into the link to Unity scripts and go ahead and go into our scripts here. And we do have a new input controllers. So what I want you guys to go here and just right click and download. Make sure that when you download it, that if it's not the first time you have downloaded it, ensure that when you import it, you get rid of the parentheses 1 parentheses. So let's go ahead and open up our Unity game here, and I'm just going to go to my original scene that we created that had some of the work that we were working on. So I'm just going to click on this one, for example. Okay, so first things first, we're going to need to import a brand new input systems. Okay, so by doing that, we're going to go to Windows, we're going to go to Package Manager, and we're going to look for input systems. So make sure that you're looking in the Unity registry here, and we're going to type in input. And you'll see that there is a new input system that was released January of 21. So we'll go ahead and click install. And let's go ahead and give it a few minutes. Okay, so the warning says the project is using a new input system package, but the native package on the back end is not enabled. This means that no input from native devices will come through. Do you sure you want to enable this? The answer is yes, and it will cause us to restart. So it's going to go ahead and close our app. It's going to restart it. It's going to import the new input systems. And again, the whole reason why we are doing this whole input system is that it gives us the ability to create a flexible number of keyboard inputs that we could then use to interact with. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this, and let's go ahead and see some of the things that we might need to change. So under controllers, let's go ahead and see if there's anything that we need to update. It is not here. Let's go ahead and right click. We're going to go ahead and import a UI. We're going to go to event systems. You can see here that once we add in the object event systems, you'll see that this needs to be replaced. We're going to click on replace. And now we have the new input system. So how we're going to start this project by going into our assets folder here, and we're going to right click, and we're going to go create a folder just to keep ourselves organized. And we're going to call this my UI controls. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and double click and get into this here. And now we're going to add our first object. So to kind of get things started here, we're going to right click, we're going to go to create, and we're going to go to input actions. So this is where we get this crazy great window that allows us, and I'm going to call this one my controls. It's going to allow us to define all the actions that our game accepts. So we're going to double click on the my controls here, and it's going to pop up this menu. And the first thing it's going to ask you is to add an action map. An action map says basically what state of the game are you in. Then we're going to add actions to those individual action maps. What actions can I do when I'm inside that mode? And then what properties will it have? So the first one we're going to do is go ahead and click on this, and we're going to go with the dialogue control. Okay, so dialogue control. Okay, And inside dialog control, we have basically three actions that we can have. So we're going to click on this new action. We're going to say left and right. So I believe I put it just simple as left. And then I could click on the add button here. You add a new action. And I believe the next one is right. And then I believe the next one is select. Because when you're in dialog control, there's only a few things you can do. You can go left, you can go right, and then you can click select. Okay, so that is the first one. Let's actually look at my screenshot here and see if I gave myself a clue as to what the other ones are. So we're going to go back to here real quick and see what other controls that we were going to implement. So you can see here it has dialog control, it has left button, right buttons, up buttons. So the other state, we're going to call it character control. And these have to be exact. So if you spelled it wrong, the code will not work. So we're going to go character control. And again, the naming convention that I use is capital letters for all the actions. So we got up button. We have a down button. We have left button. We have right button. And then lastly, let's see what else we got. And we got, that's it. Because the only thing we can do inside our world is to click on these buttons. And let's go ahead and go back to here. So let's go ahead and start binding these actions to an actual key. So I'm going to start with dialog control. And I'm going to start with left. And when you go to binding here, you'll see that there is no binding. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this button right here, and we're going to click on listen. Listen to what button I'm going to click. So we've traditionally been using left arrow. So I'm going to type the left arrow key will show up, and I'm adding that as a binding. And the cool part is you can actually add another binding. So besides the left arrow, I can go ahead and click on the add button here. I'm going to add another binding. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this thing right here. I'm going to click on listen, and I'm going to use the A key because it's also another traditional key to use to go left. And now I'm going to go to right button, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the binding. I'm going to click on here. I'm going to click on listen, and I'm going to say use the right arrow key on the keyboard, and I'm going to add another binding. And I'm going to say, hey, another way you can do this is click on the D on the keyboard. Okay, and the select button, I believe initially it was maybe space or enter. Let's go ahead and give them both options here. I'm going to click on binding, and we're going to click on the first one. We're going to click on listen, and we're going to click on the space keyboard. And then we're going to also listen and click on the enter key. Okay, so that basically gives the keys linked to these actions. So let's go ahead and go back to here where it goes to character controller. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the up button, and I'm going to add a binding there. And I'm going to go with the up arrow, and I can go ahead and click on this and add another binding, and it's going to use the traditional W here to go upward. I'm going to go to the down button, click the little, click on the add binding here, and I'm going to click on listen. I'm going to click on the down button or the S key, and then I'm going to click on the plus button, add binding, path, and then click on the down arrow key. Or click on listen and then down arrow. I'm going to go to the left button, click on the plus sign. Or, sorry, go to add binding, click on listen, and I'm going to click on the left arrow key. I'm going to click on another one, add another binding, go to path, listen, and A key for left. And the right key, what's very similar here, go to binding, listen. I'm going to click on the right arrow key first, and go here, go to path, listen, and we're going to click on the D key. And that's it, guys. This helps us basically create all the keys that our keys are able to do. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse these, and we're going to go ahead and close this now, or we're going to click on Save Asset. You can also click on Auto Save so that it automatically saves. So we can go ahead and close our input controllers here. And now that we have our input controllers, we had to tell it, hey, we're going to map this into an object. So we're going to click on Generate C# class right here. And we're going to, and this is very important here, the class has to be called myControls, myController. And let me actually double check that on my list here. It says myInputController, my mistake. So we're going to type exactly as that, otherwise my script will not work. So myInputControllers. I'm going to go ahead and click apply. Just double check again the name, myInputController, no S. So I'm actually going to delete that and hit apply again. All right, so now it has generated this C# class myInputController, and that means now that once we import my new script, the input controllers, we should be able to move the character using our new hotkeys. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the controllers here, and actually, no, let's go ahead and go into our script, and we're going to find the input controllers. So you can see here the input controller is in the scripts gameplay folder here. We can just right click and open that folder. We can just simply go to the location here. It's inside of the scripts folder under gameplay. And you can see here, this is the current input controller. And you can actually see like the code I saw right here, right? There's character controller, there's dialogue controller, and you can see here that it uses those exact commands to move the keys back and forth. So you can see here, this is the old one, of course. So we're going to go ahead and delete this. So go ahead and delete the input controller. And we're going to right click and actually use the new one. And the new one will actually show different ones. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to import new asset into the same folder. I'm going to go to my new input controller here. I'm going to right click and rename it because I do have the parentheses because it's not the first time I've downloaded that folder. And now actually, if you look at the new one, you can see the states that I used. You can see here it has character controller, dialogue control. And let's see if I capitalize it correctly. So you can see here, those are lowercase. And then we have right, left, and select. And over here, we have up button, down button, left button, right button. So I think all of our controls are correct. So the only thing we have to do now is make sure that inside our controllers that there is no broken scripts. So I'm going to go to controllers here, and you can see that my input controllers is still good. I can remove this old script, I think. I think it's nothing here. And make sure that our input controllers is still valid over here. Now, if you did it correctly, you'll see right here that my input controller does not contain a definition for escape and no accessible extensions for escape. So depending on when you guys do this video, let's go ahead and actually add the escape button because I added this so that later on we can create a in-game menu. So let's go ahead and go to the controllers and add that right now. So under my controls, again, you're going to just simply double click on it. And we're going to add in the character control here, the escape key. So again, we're adding it inside of dialogue control actions. So right here, we're going to need an escape key. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus sign. I'm going to put ESC. I'm going to go to bindings and we're going to bind it to, you guessed it, the escape key. So we're going to click on listen. But here's the weird part. If you hit escape with the listen key on, it's going to just close the box. So this one's the few examples where you actually have to type it in. So ESC for escape on keyboard. Okay. And then that will have the controls done there. And I believe under the character control, we're going to have to do the same thing. So we're going to click on the plus sign, put on ESC. We're going to bind it to the ESC, the escape key. And then we're going to go ahead and close this. Again, if you have autosave on, it'll ask you to save if you didn't. But I put autosave. Okay, and it should create a new input controller. So let's see now if we finally get this to work with our new keys. Okay, and now let's see if our keys are working. mistake here or what we might have forgotten. So our input controllers are here. I'm gonna go to controllers. Oh, you can see here that the controls is not done correctly and the script has been removed. So that's what I thought. We had to re-import our input controllers. So you can see here the input controller is not one of the components. We're gonna click on add component. We're gonna put an input controller. This is the new input controller with a main menu object that we will use later, okay? And now I'm gonna go ahead and drag this object into the missing input controller. So now this is attached to this, which controls the character. Let's go and hit play. And now you can see I am moving with ASDW. I can click on the dialogue. I can use my space key or enter key. I can move with my arrow keys. And that lets us have full control over what buttons are binded to what. Okay, so that does it for this video, and I'll see you next video to get you guys the in-game menu.